Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Heck of a game.
Really pretty. Makes me real mad. Yeah. Really gets my goddamn goat. Tell you what.
Go on.
Yeah, I'm gonna start recording just for the fuck of it, just for the walls. Yeah, so Control, a lot more frustrating than I thought it was gonna be, but it's not news. That's just James and video games.
Combat wise, you mean?
Some parts of like getting around the actual building, I find to be a horrendous pain in the ass.
Yeah, it definitely leans into that. You need to learn how the building works rather than follow a breadcrumb trail, which I do appreciate. There's a lot of like looking at signage in the building to figure out where you're supposed to be going.
Yeah, there was like an hour where I was truly stuck, and I was flipping out. I was like, oh my god, am I doomed? Is this never getting fixed? And I watched a YouTube video. I was like, oh, you can just shoot that stuff. Okay, fuck me then. Yeah.
It's a game made by an American developer, James. Always shoot everything. They're not American. They're some kind of European, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah. I had a hunch based on the fact that the all-powerful janitor speaks in like...
Oh, right. He's Finnish.
He's very, very Finnish. To the point where you're like, oh, sure, I understood at least 2/3 of that.
When I started reviewing that game, I had to restart, turn on subtitles, because I was like, I have no idea what that fucking guy just said.
Oh, yeah.
Turns out he was saying something about taking somebody out back behind the sauna.
Yeah.
It's like, that's okay, sure. By all means, be my guest.
I've also been playing a little Legend of Zelda Minish Cap because I haven't finished that as an adult, and I feel like I should because it's, a Zelda game and I'm the Zelda boy.
Yeah. I'm sure we'll get to that. But that is a great Zelda game.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
What's up, Rhett?
What's up? How's it going?
Just killing it. Just loving it.
Excellent.
Everything's
Excellent. Yep. Heard James, you've been playing Control. That's cool. Minish Cap.
Yeah.
That's fun. Yeah, I've been playing some stuff too.
Yeah?
Well, that's a real cliffhanger if I ever heard one. Usually someone doesn't just trail off when they say, oh, I've been playing lots of sweet stuff.
I don't know. Should we say... I guess we are recording now, eh? Are we live? We're live, baby, aren't we?
Yeah, we're as live as we get, given that we don't really go live. But
Good
yes,
point.
This is Press X to Podcast. I am recording. You all are recording. That means the podcast is happening.
So I've been playing a couple things, but what's really caught my attention, and I guess we're technically at this moment before embargo, so but
when's
the game comes out tomorrow.
Oh,
the game comes out
tomorrow.
Actually, no.
We're good.
I'm sorry though. Reviews have been coming out today, so I guess it's up. It's called Rogue Heroes: Ruins of Tasos. Man, this game, like you guys were just talking about old school Zelda, it is Four Swords meets a little bit of Animal Crossing meets like, Binding of Isaac or any top-down roguelite. Man, it's really good. It's really smooth. 4-player co-op online. Yeah, I've only been playing it for a few hours, so I don't have a ton to say, but it's just so well made. It's really, really good. And I would love... You guys recommended Hades to me and were like, yo, get this game and play it. I would love for you guys to play this one because I think you both will really enjoy it.
It looks rad.
Yeah, it's fucking dope. I'm loving it. It's finally, actually, we were talking last show about how addicted to Hades I was. It's finally the thing that I think is going to take me away from Hades.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
In addition to that, though, obviously I haven't played it yet, but coming out tomorrow is Curse of the Dead Gods. And that game is like, if you didn't know better, you would think it was Hades DLC or something, It looks essentially the exact same. There are some key elements that are a little bit different, apparently, but reviews are starting to trickle in for that one, and they're saying that it is phenomenal. So I'm looking out for that tomorrow.
Interesting.
And then I guess, although the game that I'm currently reviewing, there is an embargo of like March 1st or something, so I better hold off on that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we'll hold that one. Oh, yeah, this
best.
really looks like Hades. Holy shit.
Yeah, right? Like, you would think it's DLC, but the gameplay footage looks great. It looks smooth. I don't know if I've seen anything on the Switch yet, so that's, I would love to get it on the Switch. But apparently, the PC version is phenomenal.
Well, I mean, name one Switch port that wasn't perfect. Really.
True. Yeah, 100%. Honestly, like, Hades has kind of spoiled me. I think Hades is pretty much like a perfect Switch port. There's, in my 180 hours or whatever I've put into it, I've seen maybe 10 to 15 instances of slowdown. And nothing that's ever impacted, the game. It's just been little tiny hiccups when the effects are, floor wide. So,
interestingly, Curse of the Dead Gods, being published by Focus Home Interactive, who are growing in size and one of the bigger kind of B-tier publishers, but have forever been the kings and queens of releasing the most hottest 7 out of 10 games every single time. It's like, The Surge should have been fucking amazing. It was a 7 out of 10. Vampire should have been fucking amazing. It was a 7 out of 10. So hopefully this is the thing that kicks them out of that cycle and they just make an 8 or a 9 here.
Yeah.
I was going to say, sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, they're like the 7/10 kings. They could get like little gang jackets where they have it like emblazoned on the back like a fraction, and with just a little crown over top, and they're like, yeah, and then it just they're really stepping to the street battles.
100%.
Yeah.
The couple reviews that I have seen, though, it's funny you say that because they did both score them. I think it was an 8 and an 8.5. So maybe this will be the one where they break through. Yeah.
All right. We'll look out for that one. But Rogue Heroes. That looks pretty good.
Rogue Heroes, please, guys, play that. Get that. It's out tomorrow, and I think it's going to be like 25 Canadian or something like that, maybe 30. From the reviews that I saw, they said that it's well worth it. There's apparently tons of content. A deceptive amount, because you go into it and there's like 4 caves or chambers, whatever you want to call them, that is like the overarching narrative of the game. Beat these 4 chambers and you'll have completed the game. But between the chambers, there's this overworld that you're doing side quests in, and it's just like this big kind of... It didn't take long for me to get that feeling of like a big grand adventure, and I could imagine that setting out with a few friends and like getting to build your own home and building a little community with everybody. And man, I hope that the game remains as fun as it has been for the first few hours.
As a glowing recommendation, my friend.
Yeah.
Glowing.
Alex Thomas, his review, I believe it was supposed to go live today. I could be wrong, but I was speaking to him about it, and he absolutely loves it as well.
Okay. He took a few hours off of posting the hottest Outriders memes to play something else, did he? Okay.
For the time being.
I'm sure he's back by now. James, what have you been playing?
Well, the day we recorded our last podcast, I signed off, I dismantled my station, and immediately grabbed a code for a Switch port of a game named Puss. Puss! And it is Now, I'm going to preface this by saying I'm the guy who does play weird games, and I understand weird games. And I know that like, I've seen weird games before in my life. You have not. If you played this on PC, and I bet a bunch of people have, you know what's up. This is the strangest maze navigation game I've ever seen in my entire life. Bar none, hands down, it's not even close. You play a cat who has been sucked into a television screen and has been tasked with helping one force of beings survive an onslaught by another force of beings. Shit is satanic. Shit is extremely vaporwave. Shit is glitched out to hell. It has the wildest dissonant soundtrack I think I've heard in years. It's difficult. It's frustrating. It's short. It's insane. It's compelling. It's a lot. It's a whole lot. Like, I was playing this, and my fiance was in the room with me, and she literally went upstairs and put on music so she would not have to hear or see what I was experiencing on the television. Just like, nope, wow. It's getting right in my spine and my guts. I can't be in the same room as this fucking game.
All that description, I'm sure it's completely accurate, but it just sounded like you were randomly flipping through a thesaurus and just hammering your finger down in random places, you know?
Yeah, I know. And you watch the trailer and you're like, it couldn't be that crazy. See still images and you're like, he's exaggerating. Nah, I'm underselling it, if anything. That game made me feel deeply unsettled. And it is literally about navigating a small character through a maze where when you touch the edges, you take damage. And you're like, okay, sure. But,
oh my God.
Yeah. Fuck.
It's like an operation.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you were a surgeon who took like a fistful of ketamine before your procedure, then yes, it is like operation.
That actually does sound like a good idea for a game.
Yeah.
It's kind of giving me some Hypnospace Outlaw vibes.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
But visually, yes, it's very reminiscent.
Uh-oh.
Okay. We're temporarily -1 Rhett. Maybe we can cut out. While he's gone, we procured an air fryer.
Oh, you're one of them.
That thing is as important to home cooking as the goddamn microwave, and I will hear nothing else.
Okay, give me a list. What have you air fried up to this point?
We're a big vegetarian household. And you can get these veggie drumsticks, which were already really good, but you air fry those, no oil, for like 10 or 11 minutes, and you toss them in barbecue sauce, and they are so good. We cut up fucking challah, just the bread, toss that in oil and salt, and threw that in there, and it came out tasting delicious. It's like... It's just like if cooking was better. It's just like if cooking was better. It used less oil, and it was more delicious, and it was easier. Yeah.
Man, we got an endorsement. That's like, you're the guy who's in an infomercial audience. You're the plant who doesn't want to believe it at first, and then at the end is saying the most ridiculous things.
Yeah. We got a busted one, basically. Because Ren's writing partner was like, okay, well, this doesn't work anymore. And I was going to send it back, but they're like, no, just destroy it and prove you destroyed it, and then we'll send you a new one. So we reconnected the plug-in, the adapter, and took it to a repair place. And they fixed it up for a lot less than the cost of an air fryer. And it's a fucking game changer.
God damn. I have been thinking about it. I've been on the verge several times.
I'll say this at the very least. If you're worried about, am I going to get enough use of this out of this thing, you will feel compelled to air fry everything you eat.
Okay. I mean, it's healthy. And
It is.
fried is delicious.
It is.
So, yeah, you're right. There's literally no downside to that.
It's just the cost. It's a lot, I know.
Okay. All right. I'll be on the hunt for semi-broken air fryers in that case.
Yeah, we had to go, like, we looked everywhere for a place that repairs them. There's a spot downtown around, like, in the Chinatown area.
Okay.
Not too far from Granville Island. I can't remember the name of it, but it's the only one that repairs small appliances.
Okay.
And if you happen to have a busted one, they will fix it for you.
Cool.
And, yep.
That is basically right by my house, so
Nice.
that'll be great. Outstanding, even.
Yeah. We have one that's like sits in the counter and is also a toaster oven, so it does all of that shit for us.
And a toaster oven, you say?
Yes.
That is society's other most underrated small appliance. It toasts and it bakes. The
only thing we use our full size oven for is for making baked goods. Aside from that, we don't turn it on.
Yeah. Yeah. I understand. And again, like we keep coming around to this, there's no better time than right now to invest in and master the art of air frying. Just like the art of vegan cocktails.
They're both very important. Okay, hey, we got a bite.
We got a crown.
All right, well, that's a start.
Where Rhett will soon appear. He did say that his internet dropped him.
Okay.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I invested in Wi-Fi extenders specifically to combat this kind of thing.
Yes. Yep. I definitely had to get a mesh going.
Yeah.
If you have more than one neighbor who uses Wi-Fi, which obviously you do, no. You need to overpower them. Victory through sheer volume.
Yeah.
There he is.
This is fucked.
It's cool. We just talked about cooking for 5 minutes.
Apologies.
Talked about air fryers.
Yeah.
Air fryers. Apparently they're a scam.
Oh. You're going to want to go back and listen to the last 5 minutes of the podcast. In that case, James gave a stirring speech.
Oh. 4 against?
Yeah. 4. Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
That's
good to hear.
Yeah, we procured one. It was worth the investment.
Okay, that's good to hear.
Yeah, we'll be using it for basically everything.
Procured. Great word.
Yeah.
Because for Rhett and myself, we're not sure if you paid or not.
It's true.
True.
We'll never know.
Okay, so I've been playing Puss. Paul, what have you been playing?
Well, just today, I finished what I am convinced is the longest demo I have ever played.
Oh,
and
no.
that is the Project Triangle Strategy demo.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. I didn't get through all of that, which says something.
It's so long. It starts up in the middle of the game and says right up front, hey, this is the middle of the game, so you're not going to understand a goddamn thing that's going on. And also, we made the battles much harder than they will be in the final game so that you can test out some strategies. And, okay, all right, fine. But, on the other hand, why are you doing that to me? And it's just so long. But it is basically Final Fantasy Tactics. Like, almost exactly.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing, I guess. Right?
Yeah, so I got through the first major battle, and then there was a lot of other stuff, and then I had some things to do, so I stopped. How many major battles are there that you have to do for the demo?
2-ish.
Okay.
The second one is quite challenging. So you're probably going to do that a couple of times.
Okay.
But it does also get into what I assume is kind of the twist on the game after that first battle, which is the concept that you have to persuade the rest of your companions into doing what you want them to do, because a lot of the major choices in the game are based on a vote where each of your companions has their own ideas, and you've got to dig up dirt and stuff in order to convince them to do what you want. But even after you do that, the future is not set. You might not get your way. And, you know, if you wanted to save Prince Roland, he might just go to his doom. You might just give him away. Because you couldn't convince your allies.
Yeah. Yeah, but like, he doesn't know what he's talking about. He's like, oh, I'll just sacrifice myself and it'll all be okay. But like, nah, man. They're gonna kill your sister. We need you around. We need somebody to govern that kingdom after we kick the shit out of those guys. So we need you alive. They're definitely gonna kill her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's very pretty. It looks a lot
gorgeous.
like Octopath Traveler, but the effects and whatnot have been really juiced up. It looks gorgeous. I think when they announced this, they said it wasn't until 2022.
Yeah.
So I could see them tweaking a lot of the stuff that's going on mechanically in the game. But it's really promising. I'll definitely play it when it comes out.
I would love if they had the ability that some turn-based strategy games have, where you can like queue up an attack and then sort of like move your character around the map to see where the range is, so you can like figure out your placement.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're just like, you move, you try, you cancel, then you move again, you try. It's just like, it's just more time investment than you really need. And it's just like, it's a little quality of life fix that I feel like we could put in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's fine, guys. We can do that.
Yeah, it's almost necessary in especially in something like this where there's a lot of different vertical ground. It can be really hard to tell where you're dropping somebody if you can't back out of it right away. It's not so much of a problem in something like Fire Emblem, though.
Yeah, and height's generally pretty important in these games, and there's a couple of moves they give you in the demo where it's like, oh yeah, just sort of leap down from on high and do extra damage. And like, there's all these people that buff. They have like buffs that you can lay out, and so you're always like putting up like walls or shields or whatnot, or like going invisible.
There's a few characters that are literally only there because they buff. Like, they're absolutely useless if they get anywhere near the battle. So there's that.
Yeah, it's like, I got a stick. I'm going to wallop you with it, and I'm going to win. Oh, man, you're going to melt. We need you to stay very far away.
Yeah.
I love it when you move somebody a couple of spaces forward, and then like 5 red lines converge on them. You're like, ooh.
Yeah. Okay, so not there.
Yeah. Pick a second spot.
It does also get into some other stuff. Apparently, based on the morality system and some of the things that you choose over the course of the game, that does influence. Oh my God, is he gone again?
Yep, I'm sorry. I'm here.
This is a good old time.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Having a real one.
Cool.
Yep.
I don't know if... I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on here.
Do you think it will be more stable if you leave your video off for a bit?
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
Okay, let's try that.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, no worries. But yeah, based on the morality system, that does influence the path of the story, like I mentioned, but also the characters that join your party. So it's got a little bit of a Chrono Cross sort of thing going on. There were a couple characters that joined my party in the demo based on whatever I had said at the the right time when I was given the option. So interesting stuff. Excited to see what they produce next, because they've got Octopath Traveler now. We've got Triangle Strategy. So
which hopefully
what's
that's not
next,
the title
like,
by the end of it.
Dodecahedron Explorer, Pyramid Wanderer. You know, there's so many places they could take this. And all of them are nonsensical. I'm down with it.
I hope they find, I don't know what the name is for a 9-sided shape. They gotta work that into a title. Or make an MMA game, because there's an octagon. Ah.
Hey.
Nice.
just a bunch of like complex fantasy tropes in like really elaborate outfits pummeling the fuck out of each other.
Amazing. But yeah, the other thing I've just been playing basically nonstop is Hitman, because it's great. And reviewed Hitman 3 on the Xbox, and all of my other history with the Hitman trilogy was on the PlayStation, so I've gone back, dove into the ICA test missions and all that shit, and I'm just running through.
Yeah.
And just remembering all the nonsense you can get up to, you know, like Helmut Kruger, and even in that first final test mission, there's so many wacky things you can kill the guy with.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, the test mission is great, but Paris, man, like that level, every time I go back to it, I always get this sort of nostalgic kick, even though it's not that old, but it's just like, I felt like that level was the first showcase of what Hitman is now, you know? Yeah, there's just so much going on with Paris that even going back to it now, like that level, I think crushes probably 3 or 4 of the levels from Hitman 2. I hope that's not the case with 3. I hope 3, it's been all winners so far, but man, Paris is a good time. And yeah, Helmet, man, the first time you like get his disguise, you know, like, yeah, you know that Hitman, because you gotta remember as well, like that game was coming off of, was it Absolution? And people were like, what is going on with Hitman? You know, is this going to be an action game moving forward? And no, when you got in there and like the first time you dealt with Helmet, it was like, oh yeah, this is the Hitman we know and love.
Like, oh wait, yeah, this is still nonsense.
Yeah, exactly.
It does a great job of like warming you up to that as you get into Paris as well, because you basically, when you first walk into the mansion, there's somebody that says, holy shit, that guy looks just like Helmut Kruger. And you're like, ooh, Helmut Kruger, you say? This sounds like a good time. And yes, it is a good time. So yes, I know we talk about Hitman on every fucking episode, but it's so good.
But we haven't gone into 3 that much. Like now that you've had a lot of time with it, you know, what level stands out to you?
I really like the Dubai level.
Oh, okay.
Just as a setting, it's great. But I mentioned this with the episode we were talking about the review, but several of the levels really go off the rails and do things that you wouldn't expect Hitman to do. Like the second level is the English mansion, and there's a murder mystery that you have to solve in that level. And stuff like that is just so strange and unexpected, but so welcome. I also really like the China level. Basically, you're infiltrating the ICA facility. It's really tense, totally different tone from some of the stuff you've just done before, you know, screwing around in Dubai and pretending to be a private investigator. Some might say the tone is all over the map, but I think it works really well together because it does keep you engaged and not just spoon feeding you the same kind of level over and over again, which is kind of the problem the original Hitman got into in the later levels with Marrakesh and Colorado and Hokkaido.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't really feel that way because I was playing them episodic as they came out, but anybody who played the whole game front to back are like, well, these are kind of the same sort of thing, just different locations.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Any word on that new escalation?
I don't think it's out yet.
No? Okay. I wonder if they'll be doing any new celebrity cameos this season, this year, whatever they call it.
I hope so.
Hope so, but with the nature of how they run these things, it always happens. They've got one, maybe two at best, like cycles to use that celebrity's image, and then it's done. And even when they'll like unlock the escalations for people so they can play them, whenever they want, they still can't do the celebrities, which sucks. Missing out on Sean Bean, that sucked.
Ooh,
yeah,
sorry,
lucky enough. Yeah, well, we were lucky enough to get him around a second time.
Yeah.
On the Miami level, so that was cool. But yeah, that's one thing with those. If they were to do that, if they were to get some sort of celebrity in there, I hope they'd figure out some sort of contract or something that they could have to, at least retain that character's image.
Yeah. I have to imagine that's the next thing for the Hitman franchise, is just a platform of, here's a whole bunch of levels, do whatever you want, marketplace of missions and things like that. But don't forget they're also doing that James Bond game.
Yeah. Doing the Bond game. James, you look like you got some opinions on that.
I will know. I mean, well, personally, I think that the James Bond franchise is better suited to be an interactive medium than something you just watch, because I think the movies are really fucking boring. But also, I stopped watching them for that reason. What if they got good again? I don't know.
They didn't. I don't know when you stopped watching, but they didn't get good again.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like alcoholic sociopath sleeps and screws and shoots his way through a series of hilarious mishaps, and it's just like, okay, cool, but like you play it completely straight, so it's not fun.
Yeah, I mean, who knows what angle. Sorry, go ahead, Rhett.
I was just saying that's probably the best synopsis I've ever heard for Bond.
Totally.
I can just see that on the Shaw, the guide, as the synopsis for the Bond. Yeah. It's good stuff.
Middle-aged man shoots and screws his way through hilarious mishaps. That can describe so many different things. Yeah.
Daniel Craig falls dick first into international conspiracy.
Isn't that the only way, man?
Yeah. Oh, fuck.
Anyways, I will be interested to see what they come up with for the Bond franchise. I hope it does take that more lighthearted tone of some of the earlier Bond, the Roger Moore era. So I think that's the kind of thing that IO could really hit out of the park, given their experience with the Hitman franchise, and just giving people some fun sandboxes to fool around in, both literally and figuratively.
Oh yeah. Did they mention at all what engine they're going to be using?
I think it's Glacier, the Hitman
Yeah,
engine.
like, is it going to play like Hitman? Do you think it's going to feel like Hitman?
No.
Yeah, no. Shooting has to be better, I think.
Way
for
better.
Sure.
Way better. It's got to be driving too, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably parachuting, skiing.
Ooh, nice. Yeah.
Motorcycles. I would love to see 007 on a skateboard myself.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a licensed fuckfest.
Oh, yeah.
Not the fun one, the bad kind, where the studio or the executives or the bosses, whoever the fuck owns Bond, is going to just be like fingers all the way in every fucking step of the way. It's like, oh no, he has to be really cool all the time, and you can't have him looking stupid or goofy or doing wacky shit, because that's not cool, and Bond is cool, and it's very important that he be very cool all the time, or else he'll wither away and die like a child's wish gone wrong. Fuck.
That's precisely why there's going to be an achievement for, while riding the skateboard, ripping off a sick 360 kickflip while hitting 2 headshots.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Can't wait. So it is also the, I don't know. It's one of the anniversaries of The Legend of Zelda. 35th?
35.
35th anniversary of The Legend of Zelda. So I thought what we'd do is rank the Zelda games.
All right.
Let's come up with a list. Best to worst. We've got 19 contenders by my count. Although
Christ.
I'm not convinced that A Link to the Past / Four Swords counts as its own entry.
What? Why is that?
Four Swords is its own entry. Yeah, I would, if
Is
it's
it,
possible. You can play it by itself. It was just bundled.
Yeah, I know, but does that count? Is that
Heavily
is that a
marketed.
Zelda game?
Heavily marketed as a 4-player game, no doubt. But I
Okay.
remember playing that solo.
Yeah, you
So
could play
I'm
it
gonna-
solo.
I'm gonna go on the limb here and say that starting from the bottom, we can probably put Triforce Heroes. Probably.
Ye-
Or Four Swords, but like Triforce Heroes is pretty bad.
4 Swords worst of them all.
I think Triforce Heroes is worse than Four Swords. We also have to distinguish because there's Four Swords and there is Four Swords Adventures, which came out on the GameCube and the Wii in 2000. Nope, just the GameCube, 2005.
What the hell is that bullshit?
More Four Swords nonsense. You could hook up 4 GBAs to your GameCube,
Oh, God.
do whatever.
Yeah, I think Four Swords, other Four Swords, and Triforce Heroes could tie up last place. I don't even give a shit which one you put below which one. All 3 of them are garbage.
Okay, let's just rearrange the list here.
I'm
I mean, if
ahead.
you think
going to
something
the
should...
audience. Sorry, I'm going to the audience with this one. I'm seeing a 95, 85, 80. People don't hate this game. Triforce Heroes.
That's cool. I don't
People
really
say-
care about people. This is kind of like a personal assessment. As somebody who has played basically every Zelda game, I can say with a tiny sliver of authority that the ones that require you to have 4 friends with their own game systems and copies of the game local, because there's no online play. Really. Well, I mean, I think Triforce Heroes had online play, but it was terrible because it's Nintendo and their online sucks. So technically, you could put Triforce Heroes above the 2 Four Swords because it was easier to find other people to play with. But the games were still bad, which I think is important.
I don't know that the game is bad, but I barely remember this game. And that is a time in the history of Nintendo stuff when we were just bleeding, waiting for a good Zelda game. So any Zelda that came out was of interest.
Yeah.
And I barely remember Triforce Heroes. So I think it's definitely at or near the bottom.
Okay. Now, next on the list, if we're going in the same order, somebody has a dissenting opinion. Feel free to chime in.
Of course.
Phantom Hourglass. No button controls. You had to use a stylus. Same with Spirit Tracks. But Phantom Hourglass, no button controls. Had to use a stylus. Had one dungeon you had to go back to 5 different times. It got progressively more frustrating each time. I confessed to a friend of mine at the time that I was thinking of splitting the cartridge in half on a stump with a woodsman's axe. And he was like, no, give me the game instead. And I'm like, okay, fine. But I really wanted to cut it in half with an axe. Because fuck that game, I guess. But I mean, you know.
I think Phantom Hourglass is better than Spirit Tracks. I didn't like either of them, but I think Phantom Hourglass is slightly better.
Right.
So I think that's the place we're going to find ourselves in, is A or B. Which one is worse?
Okay. Okay. Fair.
I'm perfectly happy to move Phantom Hourglass down there unless Rhett has something to say about it.
What was Phantom Hourglass and what was the other one?
Spirit Tracks.
Spirit Tracks.
Yeah, I never even heard of that game, so I'm going to go Hourglass above it.
Yeah, it's the train one. They thought, we got away with boats in Wind Waker. What if we had trains?
Oh. So it's all kind of based around trains?
No, not really.
Spirit Tracks is, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, it's more based around the touch controls than anything.
Okay. Yeah, I don't like that. Stylus only? I don't like that.
I think just above Phantom Hourglass, there are a few options.
Okay.
And I think the three options are Zelda 2, Majora's Mask, and Skyward Sword.
I personally think Majora's Mask ranks way above those other two games.
I was going to say, I thought Majora's Mask was beloved. I thought people really, really dug that one.
I do not like it. I know plenty of people love it.
It's honestly the best possible result given the tools they had to work with and the timeline they wanted to release something in. Because it's the same engine as Ocarina of Time, but gameplay-wise, it's fundamentally different in a lot of ways. It kind of forces you to explore this weird little world, top to bottom, like backwards to forwards, and like get into all the nooks and crannies. And it feels, on the one hand, you're like, oh, you only got 3 days. This is terrible. Who could even do this? On the other hand, once you figure out how to like explore that time frame properly and like go back and go back and go back, and you figure out what sticks and what doesn't when you make your progress, then suddenly it opens up and suddenly you have all this freedom, and then suddenly you're like learning all these things about the different characters. And like, this is probably one of the only Zelda games where every character kind of matters if you want them to. Like, you can learn their stories, you can solve their problems, you can change their fucking lives for the better if you so desire. And like, in doing so, you directly benefit yourself eventually.
That's fair. I definitely commend them for doing something totally different and not just doing Ocarina of Time 2. That said, the act of playing Majora's Mask is not enjoyable for me.
All right, like I admit it should be further down the list, but definitely above Skyward Sword, definitely above Zelda 2. Also, yeah, Skyward Sword, move that just above Phantom Hourglass. What do you say? Yeah, just above. There we go. Yeah, that's perfect.
I agree with that. Skyward Sword sucks. I haven't checked this, but I have a feeling that it's one of, if not the worst reviewed of these games.
Nope.
Really?
Not even close.
Seriously?
Have you read IGN's original review of Skyward Sword?
No.
It will melt your fucking brain. 10 out of 10. Masterpiece. They spend the entire runtime of the review gushing over Skyward Sword and how fucking amazing it is.
No,
and
it's
just like
it's
Oh
not.
my god.
It's not reality.
it's like
Oh shit, you're not kidding.
yeah, it's a beautiful game with a great story, and every second of it is fucking exhausting.
So, what did y'all think of the Skyward Sword Switch announcement?
They're giving you the option to take away the motion controls, which will make the game exactly 6% better than the original release. So, you know, good for them, I guess.
Yeah, I can't wait to try to do precise sword strokes using a Joy-Con joystick.
Oh,
Yeah,
I can't wait to go from top left to bottom right on a Switch joystick.
Yeah,
That is going to be an absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
completely fucked. Yeah.
It's like they were out of ideas when they did Skyward Sword. Like, we haven't been in the sky? I don't know, sky? Let's go up.
Yeah.
And someone said, yes, you're right. Let's do that. And then I guess IGN liked it, but I can't think of anyone else that loves this game.
If you were of the right age, and this is very important because this is something I've been running into for years and it's continuously baffled me. If your first or second console you ever owned was a Wii, like if you're young enough where that was like a viable thing for you, and then Skyward Sword is your gem. It's your absolute game of the decade, game of the century, game of the lifetime. It's the best thing you've ever fucking played. Everything else you played after Skyward Sword is attempting to measure up to it and failing. There's the clean, hard dividing line in terms of like a generational gap, where if you're younger than a certain age, motion controls came to you like swimming to a duck, and like otherwise it's untenable. It's disgusting. It's abominable. But like, even if you take motion controls out of the equation, which I find difficult to consider with Skyward Sword because the entire game is built around the motion controls. If you take that factor out, you're going back to dungeons over and over again in order to complete goals. You're fighting the same bosses repeatedly.
Yeah.
You're being interrupted every 45 seconds at best by a much more, let's say, involved and detailed and dedicated version of Navi from Ocarina of Time. There's just a lot of little gameplay things that make the experience extremely unpleasant if you've played any other Zelda game before Skyward Sword. The fact that you're constantly being interrupted every time you pick up an item, and it has to tell you and show you where in your inventory it goes, no matter how many times you've seen it before. The fact the huge animations involved in like opening treasure chests, which has been a Zelda thing, but it was like at its absolute worst here. All the systems that they perfected in Breath of the Wild are in their like rough, awful form here. So like the stamina meter, is first shittiest incarnation in Skyward Sword. And like the crafting and item collection mechanics are here, but they're like, again, much worse. It's just really exhausting.
Yeah, it's really the era when Nintendo was at the worst of that. They were the most hand-holdy they could possibly be, and they still have some of that nonsense in a game like Mario Odyssey, where it's constantly popping up suggestions for what you should be doing or how to control the game, and you can't shut that shit off. But in Skyward Sword, it was just so needlessly just laborious at every turn. Ugh, it's a terrible game.
Yeah.
Bad core design. That's a problem.
Yes. Taking the motion controls away will not fix that. Zelda 2.
Yeah, I did slot Zelda 2 in just above Skyward Sword.
Yes. It's obtuse. It's difficult to approach properly. It's very like, you kind of can't play it without a walkthrough open, or if you can, you're gonna have a pretty bad time. Like if you were of the right age and you memorized it and it's minutia as a kid, then you're probably fine. But like approaching it as an adult, none of it's intuitive, none of it is approachable. It's just like there's seeds of good game design there. Like the movement and the combat system is really cool. Like nobody else was doing shit like that in the NES era. Like that was great, but like they built a really weird clunky game around it. So
yeah, it was definitely rushed out the door. And, you know, I don't know this for sure, but I wouldn't be surprised to hear that game was originally something else. And then The Legend of Zelda did really well. People wanted more of that, and then they rebranded it. They're like, "Okay, this guy's wearing a green tunic now. Let's get some moblins going." And
yeah,
here we go.
Okay, so what's above Zelda 2?
How do we feel about the Oracle games?
They're pretty good.
Yeah.
They're basically just like Nintendo trying to recapture the magic that was Link's Awakening.
And doing a competent job.
Yeah. It was really interesting because there was like codes and data and stuff like that like traveled from one game to the other. If you ended up buying them both, you could like take certain elements of your progress over from one to the other. There was a lot of like interesting like world manipulation mechanics being used different ways in both games. I would put Link's Awakening above both of them easily, but beyond that, I'm not really sure where they would go.
Yeah.
I'm looking at this list, and I would say those Game Boy games go next on the list. If we're going from worst to best, it would go after Zelda 2. You would have the Oracles and Link's Awakening. Just because everything else after that are like complete bangers, and they're just better than those games. Like now we're splitting hairs.
Yeah,
now we're
it's
just
gonna
like
get fucking tough. For those who are listening on audio, from bottom up, as of this point, we've got Four Swords and Four Swords Adventure. Splitting hairs there. Who knows what's worst? Triforce Heroes, Spirit Tracks, Phantom Hourglass, Skyward Sword, Zelda 2, Adventure of Link, the Oracle games, and Link's Awakening.
Yeah.
Rhett, you got any problems with that as it stands?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that sounds good.
If it were me making this list, Majora's Mask would be next.
That would be number 10?
That would be number 9.
Number 9. Yeah.
I would put Legend of Zelda and then Majora's Mask, I would say.
Okay.
At least.
Yeah, I guess I wasn't really thinking about the original.
Yeah, it's great. It's got good bones, you know? It's good stuff. But like
it inspired an entire genre. But this is not a list that is about the impact on the industry. This is about what's the best game.
So yeah, on that note, yes, I would say Legend of Zelda goes next. Yeah. And then Majora's. Yeah, well,
let's put it this way, James. What's worse than Majora's Mask of the remaining games? That being
Minish Cap.
Oof.
Yeah. Minish Cap is cool, but Minish Cap is just kind of like a greatest hits compilation of like a bunch of other elements. Like it has a lot of music.
Yeah.
And visual cues from like cobbled together from 7 or 8 other games.
Yeah.
And it's basically just a small portable version of like a mashup between Ocarina of Time and like Wind Waker. So it's not.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, which makes it like, in
An
my
awesome
opinion,
game.
yeah, it's just like a greatest hits compilation, which in my opinion is not necessarily better than any of the greatest hits that it contains.
But can you think of another Zelda game where Link's hair bounces quite like that?
No, and that's not enough of a selling point.
Damn it! I just love Minish Cap. It's a great game.
It's a great game. The others are better. No shade on Minish Cap. It's fine, but we're getting into the grains now. So it's pineapple ginger beer, cheap vodka, a splash of triple sec, a little lime juice, and some ice.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, no, it's really good.
You fancy.
My specific beverage required something with more volume.
Yeah. I did look up that The Last Crusade Holy Grail prop. It's several $100s.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if we're going to put Minish Cap underneath Majora's Mask, I'm going to expect a little leeway going forward here on at least one thing.
I mean, yeah. What do you think is next after Majora's Mask?
So for the audio listeners, we've got remaining, and this is why it's difficult: Breath of the Wild, A Link Between Worlds, Twilight Princess, Wind Waker, Ocarina of Time, and A Link to the Past. I think that Twilight Princess is next.
Yeah. I rank that game differently depending on whether you play it for the Wii or the GameCube. I think the Wii game is abominable, and I think the GameCube game is excellent, and it's crazy how much of a difference the controls make.
Yes, obviously.
Because I played it twice, and my opinion changed drastically between the first playthrough and the second.
Mm-hmm.
Because like once I procured a GameCube copy of that game, it was like, oh.
Well, I
so
most recently
better.
played it on Wii, but have played it on GameCube as well, and agree with you that obviously the GameCube game is better. Just wish it looked better. This is quite muddy, especially going back to it. It's pretty muddy.
Yeah, but like, it's old enough now that you're like ready for that retrofit.
Yeah,
and that's fine.
That's fair.
But yeah, we can put Twilight Princess just above Majora's Mask there.
Okay. Now, do we want to keep going bottom up, or do we think there's a clear top game here?
Oh, for me, it's a toss-up. No. It's a...
It's
I would say Breath of the Wild is either number 1 or number 2. That's my next. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm the worst guy to ask, but that was going to be my vote. Breath of the Wild number 1. That is an incredible game.
Truly.
Cuz like it took every promise that they've ever made with a Zelda game basically came true with Breath of the Wild, where it's like, oh yeah, you can go anywhere and explore anything, and it's huge and it's epic, and you can speedrun it like crazy, and like people are still picking it apart and finding cool new shit to do with it, and they will continue to do so for years to come because it is like basically the new gold standard. A seat previously held by Link to the Past, which is the other one that people have like endlessly dissected and played and replayed and perfected and done speed runs of and like rearranged with mods.
Yeah. That's a total side note, but the randomizer community for A Link to the Past is crazy.
Yeah.
And what a wonderful way to spend your time is, just muddling your way through a messed up version of Link to the Past, trying to find items.
Which you basically have to do because you've memorized the original version of the game.
Yes, absolutely. I would agree with that assessment. My one nitpick with Breath of the Wild is that I fully hate and despise the weapon durability in that game.
Yeah.
Yeah, that never really bothered me.
It actively discourages you from engaging in combat, and the combat, I think, is arguably the best 3D Zelda combat. But, I've got this nice sword. I don't really want to go fight those guys because I really need this sword for when I go, take on the divine entities or whatever.
That's exactly what has caused me to have to restart the game twice. I get into it, I play a few hours, I start to get some good stuff, and exactly what you said, Paul, I don't want to go use my good weapons. And
I've never had that problem.
I wouldn't be mad at it if things degraded maybe not a little slower, a lot slower. Things need to definitely degrade slower.
See,
yeah, sorry, go on.
The problem I had with Breath of the Wild is that I kept finding weapons that were as good as the ones that I had. So basically what was happening was I wasn't using them up fast enough. Like weapons degraded. Weapon degradation for me and my playstyle was essential. Like they had to break down because I kept finding more of the fucking things. So it was just like, well, I'd be like, I already have 2 of the hammers, and now I've got 3 more on the ground in front of me. What am I going to do? Yeah. So I have to go harvest a whole bunch of minerals and break 2 hammers, then come back and get the other hammers and I have this amazing elemental sword, and I'm like, I have to use the fucking thing because I just know in 10 or 15 minutes of gameplay I'm going to find another one. I was constantly running out of weapon space and I had to work as hard as I could, as fast as I could to upgrade my inventory space because I kept overflowing with weapons, and I was like, oh no, I have to keep burning through this thing as quick as I possibly can because otherwise I'm just gonna be throwing things away, and that's dumb. I never ever ran out of good weapons because they're falling from the fucking sky. It rains both actual rain and swords at all times in Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, I think maybe what I'm thinking of is more of a signal of the actual problem, which is the inventory and the user interface / experience of Breath of the Wild, which is bad. It's not good. If you're doing the cooking interface, there's only so many times a person can remain sane and listen to the cooking jingle, as good as it is. But I don't want to have to sit there and hammer the A button for minutes on end to cook up all the apples that I have. I just don't want to do that. There's a bunch of nonsense like that where, like you said, James, weapons are falling from the sky, and there's an elemental sword, and here's a staff, and here's another shield, and here's some more bows. You're always in the inventory. I don't want to be in the inventory. For me, playing a Zelda game is about, achieving something and getting the reward. So, you go into the correct dungeon, you get the Cane of Samaria, now you can create blocks. And you create blocks. But if the Cane of Samaria just broke after 3 uses, I'd be pissed if I had to go try to find another one. I would way rather have had this game have, some kind of degradation mechanic for some items. But if I go and get the Master Sword, that thing is the Master Sword. It's fucking unbreakable. Maybe you have to go and grind it at a grindstone or something once in a while. I'd be okay with that, but I don't know. For me, that whole system cheapens some aspect of that Zelda experience of, opening the big chest and getting this amazing thing that you didn't have before. And yeah, you do have the Sheikah powers, but I don't know. It took away from it for me. But that's totally a splitting hairs kind of thing, because this is still if I reviewed it, it's probably a 10 out of 10 game.
I'm with you on that.
So I guess what I'm saying is I think Breath of the Wild is number 2.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. Okay. It gets kind of dicey. What do we think is number 1?
Like, that's another question.
'Cause,
I think it's Link to the Past.
Yeah, I do too, but I'm really biased. Like, it's my first Zelda game. It's my first Zelda game. Of course, I think it's the best one.
Sure.
But on the other hand, it has that most important quality which I think is critical to a good Zelda game, is that if you want, you can beat it in a single day. You can just power through that bad boy. Just in one afternoon or one long day, you can start to finish Link to the Past. You can do the same thing with Breath of the Wild if you're like really good. You can just go right to the castle and beat the game in one day.
It's true.
Which I think is key to the enjoyment of a Zelda title, is the ability to make it last for as long or as little as you wish.
Yeah. I mean, it's no coincidence that the conversation about best Super Nintendo games always ends with A Link to the Past being at or near the top. I mean, this is a game that came out very early in the console's life cycle. This is like I think it's a 1991 game.
Yeah.
It's like within the first year of the Super Nintendo being out, and it stood the test of time. This is a thing that nobody had built before. Nobody had made something this elaborate before as an action RPG with that kind of inventory system and things. Like, obviously they're building on top of what The Legend of Zelda did, but to this level had never been conceived before. And it stood up all the way through the Super Nintendo generation and continues to stand up today as something that has aged tremendously well, which is something you can't say for Ocarina of Time. Like, that game is clunky as shit now. Amazing game, but so clunky.
Yeah, the N64 version is like trying to do like the aiming and stuff like that. It's just like, oh, it's not a good time. You need to play it on 3DS, and then it's a little better, but still not great.
Yeah.
Yeah, a good testament to how good A Link to the Past is how many indie developers are still just making their own version of that game 20 years later.
Like Rogue Heroes. You know?
Yeah, seriously.
Just even watching the trailer, it's very heavily influenced.
Oh, you would think it's the same game if you didn't know better.
Or, God, there's so many action RPGs that have come out in the last 5 years that are like, oh yeah, this person grew up playing A Link to the Past. I'm like, yeah, a lot of people did. It's a very important title.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is related to another game that is still in the top 5 list here, but the amount of buzz and cultural interest that A Link Between Worlds generated when it came out, it is a scrambled Link to the Past. A couple new mechanics, a few new things here and there. But the way people latched onto that game, like, holy fuck, this is an amazing game. Well, I got news for you, friends. It's A Link to the Past with a couple of new things. And it's still absolutely incredible and one of the best games on the 3DS.
Yeah, they succeeded because they just did that game again. That's how good that game is.
Yeah, they didn't need to do anything else. I bet if I went and picked up my 3DS right now, that's the game that's in there.
Yeah.
As the last thing I had played on my 3DS. And yeah. All that to say that I think Link to the Past is still number 1.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the way the list is right now. So that is, we left off with like Majora's Mask, and then Twilight Princess, and then A Link Between Worlds, and then The Wind Waker, and then Ocarina of Time, and then Breath of the Wild, and The Link to the Past, I think that is pretty much the list. In my opinion.
I could see swapping A Link Between Worlds and Wind Waker.
Nope. Personally, my opinion, don't think so.
So are you thinking of the Wind Waker or Wind Waker HD? Because those are very different experiences for me.
I have strong feelings for the original, for the GameCube.
I do love it.
I played it like a decade after it came out. And it was still just an absolute gem.
Even with all the sailing.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah. A Link Between Worlds, I think, falls below it just because it's riding on the coattails of a much better game.
Yeah.
And it's great, but like Wind Waker, I think, is amazing because when it first was revealed and people were like, oh, look at that cartoony bullshit. That's terrible. We don't want a Zelda like that. We want a cool, realistic Zelda. And then people played it. And they're like, no, wait. This is amazing. We want this forever, please.
Yeah.
Because he's still, to this day, that's the most expressive, the most animated, the most lively version of Link we've ever gotten.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I'd agree with that.
Even those muddy ass, the original GameCube graphics are so clean and crisp compared to anything else that came out in the system, and the way they were able to make him like show stuff like fear and confusion and disgust and joy and determination, just like with a simple little character model, and the way like everybody just like moved and leapt and slashed and tumbled through that whole world, and the way it was just like bright and beautiful and like still foreboding and powerful, like at the same time. Like they hit it hard with that game. That was an excellent decision for a GameCube title. And I mean, like, I understand why they like went so hard in the other direction with Twilight Princess. Like, I get that. That was like, an important direction to take. But like, oh boy, a Wind Waker really knew how to make that hardware work, and really knew how to like take that concept and make it like feel fleshed out and perfected. It was excellent.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, visually and even on the design side, Wind Waker is very much a spiritual successor to A Link to the Past. Getting back to that kind of fun, stylized version of Hyrule that people could look at and go, oh yeah, that's kind of cute. But also this is kind of tough and challenging and a rewarding game to play.
And the boss fight at the end is like maybe the best way that the series has ever ended. It's the best ending of a Zelda game that I've ever played.
Yeah. Okay.
Like that epic sword fight. Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
Yeah.
No crazy tools, no gimmicks, no tricks, no fuckery. Just like your blade versus his. Who comes out on top?
Yep.
It's so good.
Yeah, it really is. Just the sailing mechanic in the original game was a lot.
Yeah, it was a lot to handle, and you could tell it was like they went a little overboard. Like they couldn't quite figure out how to do the pacing and the padding and stuff like that. Like they wanted it to last a little bit longer, but not too much, and they kind of missed the mark. But like, oh.
They really crushed it with the HD version, though. Just the little quality of life stuff that they did in the HD version makes it a much better game to go back to than the original. But yeah, I can see that in number 4. The only one we haven't really talked about is Ocarina of Time. And I mean, it defined 3D action RPGs from 1998 until now.
Yeah. The Z targeting system literally changed the game.
Yep.
Because it was like, oh, aiming sucks with these garbage controllers. We're going to introduce a mechanic that makes it a little more bearable. And it was just like, oh, could we just use this for every game forever, please? And then any game that didn't was like, yeah, but why don't you have some sort of aim assist, you know? Or something to like focus on so that you can go about your business. So that you can move and also aim, because it's the idea that obviously this character is going to be a good shot. Never mind what you can do with this janky ass joystick.
Yeah. That's true. And also, who designed this ridiculous trident of a controller?
Yeah, anybody listening to this podcast who is too young to have experienced the N64, you don't understand the size of the bullet you dodged. It's such a piece of shit.
The sheer amount of fog is ridiculous.
I went back and tried to play, I think like, oh God, it had to have been like 10 or 12 years ago, we'll say. 12 years ago, I went to like a house party and with a bunch of nerds, and we busted out GoldenEye for the N64 on the 64. And this was like PS3 days, okay? Like this was back in the day. This is a long time ago. It still sucked. It was so bad. That controller's such a piece of shit. I don't know how we got by with it. I don't understand how they were able to get away with that. I don't understand why we didn't condemn them more for that. Hopefully we did. I don't know. It was bad.
Yeah. I mean, I was 11, 12 years old when Ocarina of Time came out, and my nostalgia goggles of looking at that game and what that game actually is are just so different in a way that you don't find on Super Nintendo games or even generations after that, the GameCube and the Wii and things. Yeah, they're muddy, but they still hold up pretty well. But I remember thinking when I walked into Hyrule Field for the first time, oh my God, look what they have accomplished. And in reality, it's like 8 polygons and a lot of fog.
Yeah, it's a big empty field with basically nothing in it. You're like, oh my God, this is amazing. It's just like, this is a hell world. An apocalypse has happened here. Where's all the life forms?
Yes.
Is everything dead? What has happened? Is Ganon already won?
Just walk around the outside edge and eventually you'll go somewhere that has something happening. But while you're here, forget it.
Yeah, Hyrule uses some sort of high-powered pesticide that discourages all plant and animal life from settling here.
Okay, so here's a question. Does Ocarina of Time belong in third spot? Yes, it defined an entire genre forever. Is it a better game than Wind Waker, though?
I
don't know. I don't think so.
I don't know. Yeah. I think it probably goes in number 4. Just because, like, a lot of the rest of this list has been, like, how does it hold up rather than how did it impact the industry when it landed. Because, like, a lot of these games are still great.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, Wind Waker still holds up. A Link Between Worlds is still rad. Twilight Princess, still really good. Ocarina of Time is playable still, even with those janky N64 controls. Like, it's just the muddiest textures you've ever seen in your life. It's hideously ugly, but still good, still really good.
Also, there's Navi, and Navi has arguably the worst voice ever.
Yeah. But, like, gameplay wise, the design is pretty tight. You don't waste a lot of time. You spend like maybe 10 minutes being like, okay, where's the shield? Where's the sword? Point me towards the first dungeon. And it's like, all right, hop inside of my mouth and kill some shit. I'm like, all right, let's do it. It doesn't waste a lot of time, not a lot of hand holding. Yeah. Although this is definitely the start of where they're like, hey, here's a text box to accompany every time you do a thing. Like, thanks.
Have fun. But not too much fun. Be careful now. Hit A to confirm that you've read this.
Yeah. And sometimes we'll switch I understand or I have no idea what's going on from the top or the bottom option, so you can't just button mash your way through and you have to listen to that fucking owl blabber on for another 3 minutes. You're like, no.
All right.
This feels like I'm being tricked.
I think we got ourselves a list here, fellas.
Yeah, I think we do too.
And that is the ultimate COG-connected ranking, press X to podcast ranking of all the mainline Zelda games. So let's count them down. Let's go top to bottom. No, let's go bottom to top.
Yeah.
Bottom to top. At the very bottom, Four Swords Adventures. Then Four Swords, Triforce Heroes, Spirit Tracks, Phantom Hourglass, Skyward Sword, Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link, Oracle of Seasons / Oracle of Ages, Link's Awakening, The Legend of Zelda, The Minish Cap, Majora's Mask, Twilight Princess, number 5, A Link Between Worlds, number 4, Ocarina of Time, number 3, The Wind Waker, number 2, Breath of the Wild, and number 1, A Link to the Past. I feel very happy with this list.
Yep.
James has concerns.
No, it's about where I would put it. I don't know. I wanna rank Link's Awakening higher, but on the other hand, I don't know where I would put it. Above Minish Cap. I put it above Minish Cap. All right, I figured it out.
Above Minish Cap? I mean, Link's Awakening is so obtuse.
It's true. It's
That's another one you cannot play without a walkthrough. How do you wake that fucking windfish? Nobody knows. I mean,
when I played the Switch version, the new hot version, which I also loved, I definitely had a walkthrough open because there's some things where it's just like, I don't know, man. And they like lock the strongest weapon in the game behind this nonsense trading sequence. That doesn't make any sense. You just have to talk to everybody and memorize what it is they want, because what they want doesn't relate to who they are in any way.
Yeah. That really just reads as we wanted to make this game longer and we had very limited number of bits on this Game Boy cart. So let's send you back and forth across the island 10,000 times.
Yeah. I guess what I'm trying to say is that I love Link's Awakening real big, but I understand why it's where it's at in the list. I love it so much.
I would be cool putting it above The Legend of Zelda, but not the Minish Cap.
Okay. Fair.
I just love the Minish Cap. You know?
Yeah. It's pretty good. It
Nintendo
has the
didn't
roll.
even develop the game. Capcom made this thing. And they made a rad-ass Legend of Zelda game.
Yeah.
But if you didn't know, you would think Nintendo made this thing.
Yeah, it's like I don't know if it's Capcom, it's some weird developer, but it's not Nintendo. And they knocked it right out of the fucking park.
I'm gonna look that up.
Yeah, so nope, that's good. All right, I feel good about that. This is good. This is fine. This is perfect. Okay.
It is an Inafune joint.
Nice. He has good things sometimes.
He has. From time to time.
Yeah. Good things. That does not include Mighty Number 9, but good things nonetheless.
Well, he redeemed himself. He redeemed himself. But interesting. I did not know that. I want to go play the Minish Cap now.
Yeah, it's real good.
Anyways, the final list was that same thing, except we switched The Legend of Zelda and Link's Awakening. And I don't want to read them out again, so that's it. That's the list. That's the best.
Okay.
The list of the best Zelda games. And now, I'm just going to give the floor to Rhett because he hasn't said anything in a long time.
Well, what is there to say other than I'm really disappointed that Link, the Faces of Evil, and Zelda, the Wand of Gamelon didn't make the list. Those are two of my favorites.
They are not.
I was waiting for those to appear. I figured they would be up at the top when they didn't appear towards the bottom, but I guess they didn't even make the list. So,
Brett, I dare you to try and play those one time. Just one time. Just even attempt it.
Yeah. I've always been curious.
Yeah. I know you've got a lot of strong opinions on like shitty Switch ports and like shitty old games. And I think that the Philips CDI Zelda games would cause you to form and destroy several blood vessels in your head. Like, they are real bad.
Do you think there's any way to play them on an emulator? Or is that
totally.
like a CDI? Yeah? They'll be out there?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can. Don't, though. You can
No?
do that, but don't do that.
Why not?
I'm sorry, Rhett. I'm sorry. I was joking. Please don't actually play the Philips.
Don't play
CDI
them at
Zelda
all.
game. Jesus Christ, no, not even as a joke.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
I mean, if you can get through the gameplay sequences, the
story's not
cutscenes
bad.
are like the drug-fueled fever dream that you never knew you wanted.
And you don't, by the way. That's
You don't.
It's not a feint. You don't want that.
It's a bad trip. But there is a GDQ run of Wanda Gamelon from earlier this year, so you can go watch that.
Yeah, that's the much better way to experience the game is watching somebody else play it.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Don't play it yourself. Watch a good Let's Play. That's my recommendation.
Oh, absolute nightmare.
Okay, I'm with you on that. I guess the only other thing I would say is that Paul, you can check the chat because you're going to find a link to a $49 Indiana Jones chalice.
Ooh, hey, baby.
That is on Amazon Prime. You can have it tomorrow. You can be drinking fucking Kool-Aid or whatever it is you're drinking. Or no, it's the IPA right now. So you can be drinking that out of that baby tomorrow.
Oof. I'm going to click that link.
Yeah.
You know I will.
Yeah, why not, right? $49. It's certainly not
What else
the
am
$400.
I doing with my life? I got nothing going on.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Well, I think that'll do it for this episode of Press X, the podcast, where, we talked about a couple of games, and then we ranked all the Zelda games.
Hell
And,
yeah.
If you listened to all that and you didn't feel compelled to go back and play at least one of those games, I don't know what to tell you. You should probably go back and play one of those games because they're real good.
Yeah. Y'all got me thinking about Link's Awakening now. That's actually the one that I want to go back and check out.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, get the Switch version. It's excellent. I loved it. I played it front to back 2 times. It's amazing.
I heard it's about 25-ish hours.
Yeah, something around there.
Mm-hmm. It's nice. That's what I'm looking for right now. After 180 hours in Hades, I want something that's, a nice 20, 25 hour get in, get out kind of thing.
It'll definitely do that for you.
Yeah,
Yeah, we both know that you're just going to drop 300-400 hours into Rogue Heroes.
Man, if y'all are there with me, I will. I swear. It's. I think that if you're playing it alone, you're gonna get, a lot of mileage out of it. But if you've got a good group of friends to play it with, man, this could become, one of the better games on the Switch. I think one of the more popular games on the Switch. I think it's really gonna blow up right now too, with all the reviews that have been trickling in. Giving it 8+. I think that this one's gonna blow up.
I'll check it out, man. We'll talk about it next time.
Please do.
All right.
Yeah. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, everybody. This has been Press X the podcast. I'm Paul. That's James and Rhett. Check out all the stuff we write on cogconnected.com. Check out all the videos we make on youtube.com and cogconnected.com. And, we hope you're doing all right out there. It's a tough time.
Yeah.
The world ain't that great. But just remember, take care of yourselves, take care of each other. Everything is going to be A-okay. We promise you that. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.